Nia Evans moved through data the way others walked through hallways, quietly, unseen, and always looking for the places that didn't match the blueprints. For years, she had audited government systems for security flaws, a small contractor attached to the state's Ethics Compliance Office. The job sounded noble on paper: protect the public trust. In practice, it meant scanning dusty servers, filing reports no one read, and pretending not to notice the smoke curling from the cracks of democracy. Her cubicle sat beneath a flickering light that hummed with the same tired rhythm as the bureaucracy around her. She had joined the department believing in civic duty, the idea that honesty could be engineered back into the system one patch at a time. But after half a decade watching reports buried and warnings ignored, faith had worn thin. Code, she decided, was more predictable than politics. It lied only when told to. It was near midnight when she found the folder, a random audit sweep, a forgotten laptop belonging to Senator Malcolm Bryant, chair of the Finance Committee and darling of televised reform. The laptop had been retired after a cybersecurity scare, but the drive still held fragments of encrypted data. She decrypted out of habit, not curiosity. What emerged looked ordinary: expense sheets, correspondence, campaign schedules. But deeper inside the directory tree sat one file labeled Civic Renewal, Restricted. The name pulsed like a heartbeat. She hesitated only once before opening it. Inside was no program, no report, just an archive. Dozens of video clips, scanned contracts, bank ledgers, and a spreadsheet that shouldn't have existed on any government device. Each line item was a transaction: foreign contributions disguised as consultancy fees, property purchases funneled through charities, media companies paid to bury investigations. Every figure pointed toward the senator and half the legislature. The sums were staggering: millions redirected from infrastructure budgets, health initiatives, veterans' housing. The city had been bled dry behind a curtain of benevolent speeches. Nia scrolled through pages until her hands began to tremble. At the end of one folder sat footage, grainy, time-stamped, recorded inside private offices. Politicians caught in exchanges of envelopes, signatures, favors. The corruption wasn't random. It was engineered, a network of power feeding itself through data pipelines hidden beneath the surface of public service. She leaned back, heartbeat pounding in her ears. The system was supposed to be protected by layers of clearance. Accessing such data without authorization was a federal crime. Reporting it through official channels would be suicide. The same men appeared on the ethics board that signed her paychecks. Her discovery had turned her into a liability the moment it existed. For hours, she sat in the glow of the screen, the blue light carving hollow planes into her face. Somewhere beyond the glass windows of the government complex, dawn was rising over a city that didn't yet know how thoroughly it had been sold. She copied the archive onto an encrypted drive, sealing it under multiple keys. The air in the room felt heavier, as if the walls understood what she had just stolen from them. By morning, the building woke to its routine oblivion. Paper rustled, coffee machines hissed. People discussed policy with practiced emptiness. Nia smiled when spoken to, filed 2 dummy reports, and kept her secret burning behind neutral eyes. That night, she returned home and built a containment network. Isolated servers connected only through air-gapped bridges. She named the main file the Ledger. Each evening, she peeled another layer from the archive. It led her through shell companies registered offshore, campaign donations rerouted through community grants, construction contracts awarded to firms owned by relatives of sitting senators. The pattern was mathematical and monstrous. At the top sat Malcolm Bryant, the reformist hero preaching transparency while engineering theft at a scale so quiet it sounded like efficiency. When she traced a set of transfers labeled Education Infrastructure, she realized the money had been laundered through a relief fund created after a hurricane 5 years earlier. Families still living in temporary shelters had unknowingly financed luxury condominiums for lobbyists. She closed the file and sat motionless for a long time. There was no misunderstanding left, only a decision. The next day, an anomaly appeared on her work terminal. A brief message, unsigned, blinking once before erasing itself. Stop digging. She stared at the empty screen, the cursor pulsing like a threat. Someone had seen her activity. She checked network logs, an intrusion trace routed through government IPs. Internal surveillance. They were watching. Panic would have been natural, but fear had long ago hardened into focus. She disconnected her workstation and slipped out during lunch, carrying only a flash drive hidden inside her ID badge casing. That night, she began building her insurance, a kill switch script that would release the entire archive to multiple news outlets, NGOs, and international anti-corruption agencies if her devices were seized or she failed to check in every 24 hours. She coded until her eyes burned. Justice, she decided, needed redundancy. The counterattack came fast. The following week, her department announced a security breach, traced conveniently to her credentials. She was placed on leave pending investigation. Her badge deactivated at the door. Cameras followed her home. A car idled near her apartment for hours, engine purring like a mechanical warning. She slept little, ate less, and finished her upload schedule in silence. 2 nights later, she activated the switch. The files burst into the world like shrapnel. Within hours, encrypted packets landed in the inboxes of investigative journalists and watchdog organizations. Headlines erupted by dawn. Massive political graft scheme exposed. Evidence points to Senate leadership. Within a day, the footage aired nationwide. Citizens watched their elected officials trade legislation for money under the cold glow of leaked video. The government staggered. Protests filled streets, offices emptied, servers were seized. Bryant denied everything on camera, his voice trembling with manufactured outrage. But the evidence was surgical. Digital signatures matched, transactions traced. There was no room for plausible deniability. Arrest warrants followed. Investigations rippled outward, pulling lobbyists, bankers, and media figures into the undertow. The country gasped, then roared. And amid that chaos, the narrative shifted. Whistleblower or hacker, patriot or traitor. They named her publicly within days. Nia Evans, 31, data analyst, accused of breaching classified government networks. They plastered her face beside the men she had exposed, equating her crime with theirs because it made better television. The same institutions she had protected demanded punishment for the embarrassment she caused. She turned herself in before they could stage a spectacle. Better to control the frame than be hunted by it. The courtroom smelled of polished wood and politics. Prosecutors painted her as a reckless vigilante who endangered national security. Her defenders argued necessity, moral obligation, the absence of safe reporting channels. The verdict came as she expected. Guilty of unauthorized access, exonerated by no statute. Sentence: 3 years, suspended in exchange for restricted probation and permanent blacklisting from federal employment. Outside, crowds chanted her name as both insult and prayer. Inside, she felt nothing. Justice was never clean. It came with splinters. Months bled into years. Investigations widened. Dozens of officials resigned. Several went to prison. Public funding reforms were enacted. Transparency portals launched. The system, wounded and humiliated, tried to heal itself under the watchful eyes of citizens who had learned to distrust speeches. They called the new digital safeguard law the Nia Protocol, after the algorithm she had written to verify government transactions. The irony tasted bitter. She lived quietly on the edge of the city, teaching cybersecurity ethics to students who didn't yet know her name. The nonprofit that hired her never asked about the past. She repaired donated laptops, lectured on digital footprints, taught children that truth lives in metadata. At night, she walked home under streetlights that flickered like dying servers and thought about the machine she had cracked open. It still worked, different faces, same hunger, but at least now it bled more slowly. Occasionally, she received unsigned letters, thank yous from whistleblowers who had used her protocol to stay safe. Fragments of courage mailed from around the world. They called her the architect of consequence. She never replied. Legends, she knew, were just misread caution signs. One winter evening, she stood on a bridge overlooking the river that cut through the capital. Below, reflections of skyscrapers trembled on black water. The city looked clean from a distance, as corruption always does when disguised by light. Her phone buzzed. A news alert, another official indicted, evidence traced through the very transparency system she had designed. She allowed herself a small, tired smile. The loop was working. She turned off the phone and let the cold air wash over her face. Somewhere behind the glass towers, politicians crafted new slogans about accountability. Somewhere else, a young analyst in another department might be opening a file labeled restricted. The cycle would begin again. But perhaps because of her, it would end differently. Nia Evans had vanished from the headlines, but the code she wrote kept whispering in the background of governance, a quiet algorithm ensuring that secrets, once revealed, could never fully hide again. The truth had cost her everything: career, comfort, anonymity. Yet, as she walked away from the bridge, coat flapping in the wind, she felt lighter. The city could forget her name. The system could not forget her signature. Justice, she thought, was never about purity. It was about persistence. And in a world addicted to deception, even one honest act was an act of war. She had waged hers in silence and won just enough to make it matter.